Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to Sound Alchemy Podcast, the place where we talk about the grim darkness of the state of the music business from the perspective of active musician and professional music production team. I tried to expand upon it, and I think I failed at it. However, let me introduce you to Estonian Brave, and it gotta be said from time to time, beautiful Terry, who is saying hello to Girls and Boys.
Hello, Girls and Boys, how's it going? I'm very glad to be back, and it's great to have you here as well. So, yeah, we discuss all things music related from a perspective of musicians.
Yes.
And more. And plus.
And beyond.
Yeah.
So what are we gonna be talking about today?
Of course, this is not just you asking me to do the introductions, yes, because you have no
idea.
idea.
I forgot what the point of today's conversation is.
Look, today we're going to be talking about one of the first. I think we can find agreement in the fact that modern mainstream music is very bad, right?
Yes, it is indeed.
Okay, and I think we can find common ground with you, the audience, as well.
And keep talking.
One of the most common complaints, or one of the most common arguments whenever someone talks badly about the current state of the music industry is usually talking about how everything feels very samey and there's not enough innovation.
Yes.
And I think it's worth tackling the idea of innovation in music.
Yeah.
Is it really what's missing?
It's kind of a very excuse me if you find yourself offended by what I'm about to say, but it's kind of an idiotic position to take, to say that what is missing in music is innovation. What about not sucking? What about making good music rather than innovative sounding music?
Yeah, there's nothing innovative about good music, because we have seen good music from plenty of generations past.
Yes, that tradition dictates already that there is something to follow, right?
But wouldn't you say that there is some merit to your argument? Because look, the perspective that most people defend when it comes to this kind of conversation is that music nowadays is way too samey, which is something that I can agree with.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that innovation is the solution. The solution is first and foremost writing and making good music rather than innovative sounding music, because there is no correlation between being good and being innovative or new sounding, because the both of them are completely different. You can make new sounding stuff that sounds like shit, and good sounding stuff that sounds like everything before it.
But wouldn't you say that there is some form of correlation, let's say, between innovation and creativity?
No.
No?
Because why would you say that? Look, let me elaborate more, because I kind of think that I reacted too fast. Innovation, it's coming up with new ways to do stuff, right? And creativity is using your capabilities to create something new, or to bring a solution to something in a way that nobody has done before. Let's begin from that.
Okay.
Do you agree with that description of what creativity stands for?
I think you should go deeper, because I think...
Yeah, no, go ahead, because this is something that is not just a yes or no situation.
Yeah.
There are many layers to it.
Look, the way I see creativity is our ability as humans to create, as the name implies. But that creation can take form in many different ways. One of the most common attributions to creativity is art, is expressions.
I wouldn't say that is art. I think it's engineering first.
You think it's the most common way that people link creativity?
Yeah, of course. No, they don't link. It's not that it's the most commonly interacted with, because art is less common than engineering. Because it's thanks to the creativity of it's thanks to the creativity of an engineer that something like what we're doing today is possible.
Yeah.
And this is something that you interact with more often than you do with a piece of art. Makes sense to you?
Or music.
Or wherever. Because the whole point of creativity is that it's not exclusive to artistic endeavors. And that's something that I find that is a common misperception, or misconception, of what creativity stands for. Because most people associate the concept of creativity with art, when in reality everything has a spark of creativity. Everything we do.
Yeah.
Because even a joke, the best jokes are the ones that takes you by surprise. Why? Because they were creative.
I think so. From that framing, then the creativity could be the good use of resources, be it knowledge, skill.
It's a plethora of many things.
Anything you have at your disposal, given a context, you use those tools to express something?
Okay.
Would you say that the expressivity is part of creativity?
Not necessarily, because you can just repeat yourself while expressing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Hey, DJ Based, nice to have you here.
Good to have you here, man.
Greetings to everybody in Rumble. So,
Yeah.
no, what I wouldn't say that. Once again, make your postulation, because I got I lost a little bit my train of thought.
No, it's alright. The thing is that part of the conversation even is gonna be try to dissect a little bit those kind of abstract concepts,
Yes.
because they are not necessarily set in stone.
Yes.
Of course, there is a meaning to those concepts. They are not fluid,
Yes.
but it's something that is.
It's not that we're talking about gender.
Yeah, but it's something that probably our own interpretations of it may vary in how close we get to the mark.
Yeah, because there is something subjective truth.
Yeah.
Now, for those of you who are joining the conversation, we're trying to dissect the idea of, or trying to demystify the concept of creativity equaling
Innovation.
or innovation equaling good,
Mhm.
or something nice.
Yeah.
Because it's very common for people to complain about the sound of music and the reason why it sucks so much, due to the fact that it's been kind of repetitive and formulaic and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
In reality, is not the case. It's one of the many problems that modern music has. That this whole thing with being innovative, I think I can track it back to the early 90s.
Okay. Elaborate.
Why? Because think of all of the different genres of music that appeared during that period.
Mm.
I'm talking about, of course, grunge. It's probably one of the most pivotal.
Yeah.
But and which is allegedly been one of the most forward-thinking movements in music.
Was it?
Not necessarily grunge per se, but some of its offerings. For example, alternative rock.
Okay.
You got your Radiohead.
Mm-hmm.
You got your Bjork. You got the industrial side of things. You got your Nine Inch Nails and stuff.
The word innovative can be attributed to those.
100%. But does that mean it's good?
Not necessarily.
No. The problem is that a good chunk of that generation made the attribution to,
Yeah.
or the correlation between being innovative to being good. In reality, that's not that's a fallacy, man.
Yeah.
Because you can be creative, but I was about to say something that wasn't correct. But let's pretend. You can be very every day you go to the bathroom. Let's say it that way.
Yeah.
You're innovating.
You're creating something.
You're creating something
unique.
out of nowhere. It's always unique, and it's never gonna be repeated.
It never smells good.
And it never smells the same. So, and it depends on what you ate.
Yeah.
But whatever. After the terrible joke, I think that the association with innovation equaling being good it started there, or took its final form there, because you got at the same time the generation that brought to you Spice Girls, Backstreet Boys, and
Yeah.
some of the most cookie cutter things ever.
Yeah. The most generic presentation for music.
Which actually, if you think about it, during the 2000s, spread across the different genres of music. Because mainstream rock, come on, man.
Yeah.
Everything sounds like Foo Fighters. From 2000 onwards. Electronic music, everything became EDM. Hip hop, that thing. Pop music, that's the interesting one. That's the one that changed.
Yeah.
Think about it. It's kind of paradoxical, right?
Yeah, because pop music actually happens to be more adventurous than some of the alternative music genres.
Yeah, because it's not that it was the most adventurous. I wouldn't use that word, but I know what you meant with it. In the sense of it trying to reach new sounds. But at least the formula changed.
Yeah, it's a little bit less set in stone.
Because no, I think it became a new. It simply changed its formula, man. Because think about this: the late '90s was boy bands and girl bands. Then the 2000s morphed into the solo artist. Because what used to be done by the Spice Girls is done by Lady Gaga and Katy Perry and all of those girls.
Yeah.
So it simply changed.
Yeah.
But it was the same product. Because yesterday they were blasting Lady Gaga at the gym. Like, if I only change a little bit the lyrics, it could pass as a Spice Girls track. And a little bit less aggressive for the word of the word when it's applied to Lady Gaga. But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of formula, man. So it's not that it changed, but it simply adapted to the newest and the most efficient version of itself, which was less girls,
Yeah.
less salaries,
Yeah.
less personalities, less divas, easier to manage, easier to control. Just saying. But now, the whole point of this conversation, being creative. Let's define the concept of creativity once again.
Okay.
If it's a capability of if we start from the idea of creativity stands for what for what a human being is capable of coming up with to solve a problem or to create something. How does that apply to music? I'm asking.
Is that a question?
It's a question, an open one.
Look, I think that the act of making music or playing music is to a degree problem solving. If you want to look at it from a particular angle.
Okay.
Let's say you're the composer, you and I'm the drummer for a part. So let's use this as a
Yes.
starting point for the conversation. You present me with a context, a musical context.
Yes.
Let's call it the problem. I need to solve the rhythmic part of that problem with my drumming.
Okay.
So I need to be creative into how I interact with the context that was provided. And there is creation, but it's a limited creation because it's limited by the context that you gave me, the music that exists already. If you're working on a problem, let's say an engineering problem, something similar happens.
Yes.
You have a context, a set of boundaries that you need to operate inside of,
Yes.
and you need to come up with a solution and present something that works within that context.
Yeah.
So I think even the engineering perspective
Applies.
that you mentioned before kind of correlates. Of course, it's very different in its nature, but I think you can draw a correlation there.
I wouldn't say that it's different. It's just that the context requires a slightly different use of that source of ingenuity. Because I like what you said about looking at a song or the development of a song as a problem. And those boundaries, I would elaborate a little bit more on those. Those boundaries are first and foremost, at least in my head, what this is about. Emotionally speaking and intellectually speaking, what this track is meant to represent, or what kind of reaction I want to get, or I want to provoke on my audience,
Yeah.
whoever listens to this. Now that I set that in stone, how can I do it? As a composer, you got plenty of different options. The first one is instrumentation, arrangement, the interaction between those instruments, lyrics, the amount, the existence or not existence of lyrics, the use of the human voice, with or without lyrics, as because it's in the end it's still an instrument.
Yeah.
Melody, harmony, and rhythm, the trifecta of what makes and composes music, and its interaction between the three. Through time, because also length, moments, and that and how each of the different points in dynamic range plus time can create an emotion on the audience.
Yeah.
That's already a good chunk of boundaries, or not boundaries. I would put the rules of the game that you're about to play.
Yeah.
That puts you already in a particular mood, and it sets you on a path that you have to follow. Otherwise, it won't work.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, you can come up and you will come up with several solutions. Some of them will work, but few of them will make sense. Because you can solve the problem with many ways. In many ways, how does the saying goes? You can skin a cat.
Several ways to skin a cat.
Yeah. But not all of them are the best one or the correct one.
Yeah.
Just because it solves the problem doesn't mean that it's the best one.
But the thing is that it goes back to what do you call solving the problem? Because if solving the problem here is delivering
An emotion.
the correct emotion that the
Yes.
song is trying to portray, if you did your part but you didn't deliver that emotion, you didn't really solve the problem.
No,
So you failed
did.
at it.
You failed at it, but
Yeah.
there are degrees of failure. You can suck that much.
Yeah. or that much.
Or that much.
Yeah.
There are points. There are levels, and there are how can I put it? There are ways to suck or to succeed, and there are levels of success or failure. And when it comes to the development of a track, more often than not, the most far-fetched solution tends not to be the best one. Why? it's that far-fetched that there is only a particular set of circumstances that will allow that far-fetched idea to work. And just by using Occam's razor, that means that chances are that you are not meeting those particular set of circumstances. So going and playing the safe bet tends to be the best solution. And that's where the problem begins. Because some people are sick and tired of it. But who? The audience? It's the creators, man. Because they get in their head the idea of, oh, I am playing once again the blues scale. Why do you think you're doing it? Because it makes sense right now. It's what delivers the idea that you're trying to portray.
Yeah.
And that happened quite often when I was working with different bands back in the day. Because usually with guitar players, they always there was a common phenomenon, at least in this region, where plenty of guitar players were trying to come up with the weirdest possible usage of scales in their guitar solos. Why? Because it's been done to that. It's boring, and I think it has to deal with the Instagram guitar player situation. Because you see that those guys, what do they have in common? They sound like the same, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because they're using the weirdest possible combination of scales. Nobody's trying to do the traditional blues scale or pentatonics, because pentatonics, that's basically Metallica on every freaking solo. Yeah, and that's the reason why Metallica is loved by everybody and respected. All the way down to the Black Album.
Respected to a degree.
All the way down to the Black Album. And they forgot that. And it was always a hassle to deal with those guitar players because they were trying to they were always competing. It almost felt like they were competing with everybody to see who came up with the most creative approach to harmony, melody, sorry. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
And most of those solos failed. There was no saving grace for them because they didn't have any form of emotional impact, because you're playing rock music, man. And the harmony, without trying to go deep into the theoretical aspect of it, there are ways for music to sound musical, and there are reasons why a particular style sounds the same, the way it does. It's because it's following certain rules. Rules are made to be broken, yes, but when you break them every freaking time, they stop being rules.
Yeah.
They become the norm. Sorry, breaking the law becomes the norm. So you pressed. So you get it?
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Yeah, it is.
So the idea is for you to use those sporadically and sparsely, because it gotta surprise your audience. Because okay, I didn't see that coming, and I think it has plenty to do with how music was perceived during the 90s. Because these guys that I worked with, we're talking about the early 2010s, man. Most of them were the result of the post 9/11 era. So they kind of grew up. They had a little bit a chunk of their life earlier 8 years in the later stages of 90s. So they had a little bit of that mentality of, oh, you have to be non-conformist and stuff. But if everybody's non-conformist, you're basically following what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
There is that's the most conformist thing ever. So
look, one thing that is important to keep in mind as well is that music is about expression, right?
It is.
And
you can say stupid shit as well, man.
No, but look, the thing is that once again creating that parallelism with how we speak.
Yes.
Okay, being expression, I think it makes sense. Let's say that scales are like words.
Phrases. I would say phrasal verbs.
They're phrases, but you don't say that people use the word love too often.
No.
It's not an overused word, just a word.
Yes.
And depending on the context that you use it, it might be well used or might be poorly used.
Agreed.
So it's not about trying to reinvent the wheel and throw something that is extremely new or try to come up with a new word for love. It's just simply using it correctly in a context that makes sense and in a way that delivers the emotional connotation that you're actually expecting out of that conversation.
I can agree with that, because what I always try to tell them is like, dude, you can go nuts, you can go crazy, but you gotta justify yourself for going crazy in this particular point of the track. It's all about building and creating the moment for something a little bit off the beaten path to make sense.
Yeah.
But something happened in the musician mindset that it's following tradition. It's seen as a problem. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Yeah. It makes sense because we see it.
Yeah, the thing is that, look, you might say, yeah, pop music and everything that is mainstream is the most generic ever. Yeah, I agree with you. But when you try to go the independent route, you're gonna find all sort of crazy shit, man, that goes nowhere. And that applies to every genre. I think the biggest culprit is rock music, being frank, because the way that it's been, the whole concept of being, how can I put it, that's rock. The idea of that's rock.
Yeah.
Or in electronic music terms, is techno. Oh, it's so dated. My dad used to go to these rave parties, or you're playing Eagles. Yeah, that's rock. I don't like that. Why? Because it's old.
It's great music. What does it matter if it's old?
No, the thing is that the concept of constant progression. You see that it's not just a matter of music.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of art. This is actually beyond.
But look, now that you're
It's
bringing,
even political.
because now that you're bringing that cultural, socio-political aspect to this
Yes.
conversation, because we're talking about the march of progress that is relentless.
Yes.
And-
According to certain commies.
Yeah. Don't you think that this attitude to progress, which involves leaving behind the past
Yes.
to embrace something new, is something natural, or is
No.
something that is
It's organic. It's not organic. It's being forced down our throats. How do I know that, and how can I make such a claim without even hesitating?
yeah.
We lived following the same set of rules for more than 2,000 years, and that allowed us not only to cross the oceans and create the Western civilization that allowed for this miracle to happen, but also allowed us to go to the moon allegedly. So, and only when we stopped following those canons, we started to see all sorts of problems. So yeah, that's why. I know for a fact. I have evidence to back it up.
Yeah.
Basically, entirety of human history.
And look, another piece of evidence for this phenomenon is that nothing, I think, was it Lavoisier?
Yes.
Nothing is created. Everything is
Everything
perpetual
is
transformation.
perpetual transformation.
Paraphrasing badly, but you get the point.
Look at you.
But it's true.
It is.
Everything is just a transformation of something that already exists.
Yeah, but it's a very, very reductionist way to look at things. I agree. Because if you do this, of course, everything is being rehashed or everything is being remixed. He didn't say it in a way that is detrimental.
No, and actually
It was subjective.
But that's exactly the point, because I don't mean this as something that, so there's no creativity
Yeah,
because of
no,
that.
no.
No, quite the opposite. I think the creativity, now going a little bit more metaphysical and less semantics,
Yes.
creativity is being able to turn something that somebody else did your own.
Yeah.
In a way.
I like that description. I like it.
So basically, all of us musicians and
Creators, everybody,
done
yeah.
anything, you are working upon the shoulders of
Yeah,
the
yes.
people who came before you,
Yes.
who laid the groundwork, and everything guitar related has been done.
Yes.
Every single note has been played. Every single scale has been
Used.
used. Probably, I don't think they're gonna invent new scales. They might surprise me, but
Well, I know somebody who is creating on the shell, but whatever.
regardless, guitar work has been done.
Yeah.
You are just doing your take at it.
Yes.
Is that a problem?
No.
No. Use that previous work that was done before in a way that's your own, in a context that makes sense, and in a way that's meaningful to somebody else.
Yes.
That's music.
Yes. Yep. But you gotta be careful with just for as long as somebody appreciates it, it's music. No, it has to meet aesthetic conditions first, and those are objective as Boltzmann. Is balance. I'm trying to remember the way that I think it's Plato describes it. It's like balance, integrity. I'm not gonna keep going because I know that I'm butchering the whole idea, but it's basically very, very, very established principles that every human being can understand and appreciate. And that applies to everything we do, because at the end of the day, beauty is beautiful, and I know it sounds like oxymoron. No, it is not, because beauty is unique, and it's something that everybody can see without being explained. You know,
Look,
when something is beautiful, regardless of being new or not. That's sorry. Let me just finish.
Yeah.
That's why I have this huge problem with the push of or the idea of using creativity and uniqueness to and apply it as a qualitative function or part of the song. Sorry, I got lost. You get me, right?
No, I get you. But don't you think this, because what you're basically saying is that beauty, or let's call it music appreciation in the context of music, is objective. It's something that has
Yes.
particular canons to be followed
Yes.
for you to be able to pinpoint, okay, this is good music, and this is bad music.
That's what allows you to appreciate the stuff that you don't even have to like.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's being objective. Yeah,
Yeah.
I simply don't resonate with this at an emotional level, or simply it's a matter of taste. But I can't deny that this is extremely well done.
Yeah. So I think one very important distinction to make as well that becomes part of this conversation is the whole separation between the context of, let's say, preference
Yes.
or taste
Yes,
and quality.
I agree.
Because you may like something that is bad and you may dislike something that is good.
Yeah.
But it is not a defining feature of, let's say, the piece of music. It's just
a
your
defining
own,
feature of yourself, because that only means that you have a terrible taste.
or that you have a good one, depending on what side of the...
Yeah, but in this case scenario that you're describing, that only means that guy has a poor taste in music.
Yes.
So now, when it comes to the creation approach, and how this whole idea of pursuing innovation rather than quality, I think it's been quite detrimental at many levels. Because once again, using my experience working with different musicians, it was always kind of a clash of ideals and, I'm gonna put it like, ideology. Because I always try to show them, it's not that I have to force my way, that's the point. Because when you're a music producer, your role is to guide. You should never intervene. It's like you're an observer, but your duty is to make sure that the vision established at the beginning manifests itself in reality, right?
Yeah.
So your job is to make sure that all of the crazy ideas that make no sense never end in the final cut. And you will have those clashes.
Yeah.
Because how dare you to tell me I am the artist, you're the producer? Yeah, that's why you hired me, to stop you from going artistic. Because an artist tends to fall in love with the ideas, not with the results. You see?
Yeah.
That's why it's very easy for someone who is, let's say, crafting a track, once again, electronic music, because it's usually one that is done by one guy. Let's say that the guy composing the electronic piece goes for something super outlandish that took him all sorts of routing and tons of engineering to get that particular effect.
Very complex.
Super complex.
Yeah.
But it sounds like shit, man. It goes nowhere.
Yeah.
Emotionally speaking, it's simply just, well, that's amazing from a technical perspective, but it means nothing to me. So your job is to make sure that it's out of the equation, or directed in a way, because sometimes you have to learn when not to remove stuff, because you have to learn to find the genius even in the stupidity. Because sometimes it's not a stupidity, it's genius poorly managed. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense, and it's kind of tough, because this that we're talking about, for instance, the whole pursuit for innovation as a solution for bad music, let's say, is actually something that comes from a place of trying to be a part of the solution rather than a part of the problem. It's not necessarily something reprehensible. It's something positive.
But it's the direction, man. The issue is the direction. Because it shouldn't be... those guys trying to be part of the solution should be... how about writing good music?
Exactly. Because I think it's just kind of misguided.
It's misguided.
Because I think it needs to be handled with some form of care.
Yeah.
Because since it's not coming from a place of bad, because it will be even easier than pursuing innovation, simply doing the same that everybody else is doing, that is already proven to sell, for instance. So at least we're not talking about that. We're talking about someone who's actually trying to do something different.
But look, you got me thinking, because you mentioned trying to sell. I don't know how much this pursuit of breaking new ground is rooted in the idea of popularity. Because again, coming back to that era in time, everybody probably it's because I'm kind of focused on that particular period of time, because that's when I think well, or at least in my personal experience, that's where all of my conversations about music with several people across the world always end up in that point in time with that kind of people, with that generation in particular, that is infatuated with the idea of being unique. I had this conversation once in Ireland with a guy. We were talking about guitar, and I mentioned whom? Michelangelo Batti. That guy is a very proficient guitar player. I don't happen to like his style. He's very acrobatic. He's super good, but I don't like his style. But I have to agree that his tone is great, man. And he's a very, very proficient guitar player. He's insanely good. He's the one who does this with the dual guitar. You probably have seen him doing the stunt. It's like, wow, because he's playing harmony on both of them. Insane.
Yeah.
It's like two guitar players in one body. Insane. I happen not to be a fan of that particularly highly acrobatic style of guitar playing, but I love my shredding, man. So the tone of guitar is excellent, and we were talking about that guy. I said, like, man, he showed me a video of him, like, I don't know why we were talking about that guy, and I said, I don't like his style. No, me neither, but I gotta say that his tone is great. I said, no, I don't like his tone. It's arguably, no, it's not arguably, it's objectively speaking a very good sounding guitar tone. It sounds like a guitar from the 80s, man.
Yeah.
And then, okay, what would be your pick? Dinosaur Jr. Oh, now I get it. Xer. You're an Xer. And for you, ugly. They told you that ugly is good.
Because it's different.
Get me?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, ugly is also good when it's justified.
Yeah.
Because also very pretty can also be bad if it's overdone. The thing is that it's easier for something pretty to be good, for obvious reasons, by virtue of its own nature, than something ugly being beautiful. And look, it's not that it's a contradiction, because grotesque doesn't mean terrible. It's simply grotesque. It's ugly, but there is beauty in ugliness. Think of Goya, the painter, the Spanish painter. Fantastic. And all of his work is ugly as balls, man, and even like morbid and awful. Yeah. But it's beautiful, man. Also think of black metal bands. There's beauty in that sound, that evil, dissonant, kind of dark sounding music. There is beauty on it as well. Because beauty extends to the entirety of the existence, and it's black and white, man. Yeah. We need darkness for the light to exist. And so both have the same amounts of beauty and ugly.
I think when it comes to art, and more specific music now, I think when we talk about beauty, in many ways we're talking about the emotional intent being what's the word, accomplished. Okay. Because you can have the intention of provoke annoyance or provoke disgust. And if you succeed at that, then it's beautiful.
No, because it's shocking.
No, but what I mean is that it is music well done.
Oh, okay. So
because it's actually accomplishing what is set out to accomplish.
Okay. I misunderstood. But just be mindful of this. Are you familiar with the idea of shock art? Yeah. Okay. That's based on the shock factor. It's basically taking what you said but removing the rest. So it's a very dangerous line to walk on. Because if you, let's say, progressive rock, it's a good realm on which you can actually apply these principles. Since you're dealing with a long and complex track, you can actually have sections on which the piece evolves into something grotesque, even unnerving. Why? Because the idea is to set the mood for the big resolution to happen, or to make the transition from one section to the other. It's like watching a movie, man, or going to a theater. But now we're talking about something that is of larger scope. The context in this case not only justifies it, requires you to go and explore more stuff. That's why you got different genres of music that have different approaches to the creation of music. Think in terms of punk. Could you be able to pull that off in a 2.5-minute track by the Ramones? The
amount of expensive,
you can't.
Different emotions.
No, you do it on a song by song basis. In a prog rock track, the entire album could be just one song.
Yeah. Or let's not classical suites.
Or a classical suite of a suite of classical music.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Because in such a piece, you go through all sorts of emotions. Again, the usual suspect and the most common one, The Four Seasons by Antonio Vivaldi.
Yeah.
Easy to explain. You can see the whole progression, and since he's trying to musicalize the passing of time through the idea of or through the effigy that is the Four Seasons, you see how he's portraying the upbringing of life to the moment of the season, the dying, passing away, in a very musical fashion.
Yeah.
No lyrics involved, no form of visual support required. If you listen to it, to the entire suite, oh, I get it. It's clear. It's very there in front of you. It's just a matter of you paying attention. But you need almost an hour to pull that stunt off.
Look, I see that as basically the epitome of creativity.
Yeah.
Because
it's utilizing every single aspect of all of the tools at your disposal and capitalizing on every single one of them when they make sense, not gratuitously.
Because look, coming back to a definition we had in the beginning, the whole thing with a problem.
Yes.
The problem that he had with the scope of his music, the
vision.
The vision that he was trying to represent through sound was huge. Was something very complex, very layered. And creativity there is simply being able to accomplish that through sound, through the resources that he had. And it's impressive. I think it's really impressive. And once again, it's not about being innovative, because this not necessarily is new. Was just well presented.
Yes, agreed. And look, it's not about. I'm going to take us back once into the 90s. And sorry for beating the dead horse. It's not that I'm dissing on that period. Plenty of great music was created during that period on all sorts of genres. It's just simply that it's a very defining factor. It's something that I find quite interesting, because you don't see the same happening, for example, in the 80s. Because as a guitar player, what's the most common trope of guitar during the 80s? Being good.
Yeah.
Insanely good. You didn't have the chance to suck at it.
It's the age of guitar heroes.
It's the age of guitar heroes. So would you tell me that being a good guitar hero was, or at least playing guitar correctly, was being part of the norm? Of course not, because the pursuit of excellence was there. It was actually virtuous in that sense. The same applies to singers. The 80s are renowned for its singers. Or let's go back to the 70s. What was the defining factor? Badass music. And what made it badass? Great compositions. Creativity. But the creativity was also seen in the 80s, in the sense of how they took everything done and all of the experiments that took place during the 60s and 70s and polished them and created a much better package.
Yeah.
Using all of the knowledge acquired throughout those experiments. Because think in terms of Toto. That's a very eclectic band.
It is.
Are they pop rock? No. Are they jazz fusion? Kinda.
They have their moments.
Are they metal? Even. Fall in between. That, man,
It's a badass song.
that's bullshit.
Yeah.
But it's still Toto, man. Don't tell me that that's not a creative sounding band.
Yeah.
Or the Eagles. Dude, they go everywhere. Steely Dan. Man. Bands that were frowned upon during the 90s.
Yeah.
And put in the same basket as those guys are non-creative sounding. What? Just because they don't do ugly? Get me?
Yeah.
And if you think about it, how was the depiction of everything that was cool during the 90s? Think in terms of Nickelodeon. It was the era of the gross.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Cartoons.
Yeah.
Everything was gross.
Kind of twisted, kind of...
Kinda not necessarily sound.
eye-pleasing.
Yeah. It's kinda was leaned too much on the grotesque. I, for one, love Ren and Stimpy. But only them were the ones that could get away with it, because all of the other cartoons that were copying the style felt like copycats.
Yeah, especially the thing is that they the style of comedy makes sense with the aesthetics for
Yes.
them, but those aesthetics didn't really fit everything.
And the problem is that everything follow them,
Mm-hmm.
and almost to the point of being ridiculous. But they never understood. They followed the looks. They never followed the essence.
Mm-hmm.
And what made Ren and Stimpy such a great show was its understanding of grotesque and nonsensical,
Yeah.
because it was stupid.
Mm-hmm.
The whole show wasn't meant to be taken, not even in a rational fashion. It was irrational. The entire show was irrational. That's why it was funny.
Mm-hmm.
And the aesthetics were grotesque because it was used in a funny fashion.
Yeah.
But then you got plenty of other examples. Beavis and Butthead, clearly one is not a copycat. It's unique.
Mhm.
But you saw many more. Think of Ali G.
Mm-hmm.
These guys, Sasha Conan,
Such
that guy. Borat.
Yeah, yeah.
His character was kind of a real life version of the stunts perpetuated by Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, kinda.
The same happens to Tom Green. Dude, the antics are starting to go to the point of it being like, this is no longer fun, man. This is kind of mean.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah.
blurring the lines between what is funny and what is, you're starting to get too close to the soil, man.
Yeah.
And I think it's because there was that
Kind of power creep.
power creep when it came to being grotesque,
Yeah.
because people truly appreciated or valued stuff based on how grotesque it was or how ugly it was.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of weird.
Yeah. I think we got a comment over there.
Yes,
See?
Sasha Baron Cohen. Yes, that guy. Thank you, DJ Based. Yeah, I was trying to remember the name. Yeah, because it's it's a long name, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
That whole aesthetic is super 90s, man.
Mm-hmm.
And that applies to music, because think of Garbage,
Mm-hmm.
Nirvana,
Yeah.
to a certain degree, Alice in Chains.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, for example, I was blasting Soundgarden.
Mm.
I was listening to Super Known. What a great album, man.
It is fantastic.
Because I mention it because it actually has some of those grotesque tropes
Mm-hmm.
that done with care.
Yeah.
In an aesthetic fashion, a la Goya, once
Yeah.
again, because it feels that this is grotesque in purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes you feel something based
Yeah.
on the grotesqueness. I'm not saying that your Marilyn Mansons, your Nine Inch Nails,
Mhm.
your Rammsteins doesn't have that effect on you.
Mm-hmm.
They do,
Yeah.
but I think Soundgarden did it better.
Yeah.
The same applies to certain songs by Alice in Chains.
I think that the real problem is in losing sight of the why, because let's say "Sick Man" by Alice in Chains
Mhm.
is a very, let's call it, grotesque sounding
Kinda.
song.
Then Bones is also kind of grotesque.
Yeah, but it is very in line with the emotional purpose of the music.
Oh, really?
And I'm trying to think of an example of a song that's grotesque, but just by the sheer purpose of it, without actually having an emotional background that would.
Look, since I don't listen to music that doesn't suck, I'm thinking of very good examples of grotesque sounding music. For example, there's a track by Opeth. I never remember the name, but it's the second track from the album Watershed.
Mm-hmm.
Such a great album, by the way. Totally recommended for those of you who are into to death metal.
Yes, very good.
It's very good, and it's probably their last death metal album, if I recall correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Let me check. I'm sorry for bringing up the phone, but
No, it's okay. But look, the whole.
Hair Apparent.
Mm.
That one, it's grotesque as all balls.
Mm.
And the first time I listened to this record, it threw me off like there is no tomorrow, because the first track is called Coil, which is a beautiful acoustic ballad
Mm.
sung by a beautifully sounding, and I hope she's gorgeous woman, because her voice is angelic.
Mm-hmm.
And she's interacting with the main singer, Michael Lagerfeld, if
Mhm.
I am pronouncing his name correctly. And it transitions into the second song, Hair Apparent, in a way that is seamless. It
Mhm.
makes you think that it's the same track, just moving to the next movement.
Yeah.
And then BAM! It's grotesque, heavy, loud, evil, and ugly sounding. And like, damn! And goodbye, Blue Sky, because no more beautiful singing is now guttural singing. Man, it's like, this is badass, but it's like, wow,
Yeah.
that's a good, but context is
Mhm.
what allowed for the grotesque element to be
Impactful.
that impactful.
Yeah.
The thing is that at that point, 2008,
Mm.
that sound is no longer innovative, man. It was
Mhm.
innovative in the early 2000s,
Mm-hmm.
not anymore.
Yeah.
Because death metal at that point was already kind of not mainstream, but it was already renowned. Several churches were already burned down at that point. So people knew.
Yeah.
It stopped being unique. Just because it was already kind of a known thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
especially for me. At that point in time, I was already quite aware of the sound of death metal.
Mm-hmm.
By definition, it shouldn't be that impactful
Mm-hmm.
because it's no longer something new. But the way they do it,
Mm-hmm.
the context and the whole crafting of the scene
Mm-hmm.
for it to take place is so beautifully done that it gets you with your pants down, man.
Yeah.
It hits you in the balls.
And look,
And no pants in between.
I think we can use this to tie with coming back to the core of this conversation, the whole thing with innovation.
Yes.
I think in a way the pursuit for innovation in music is kinda the result of not getting the point of this kind of aesthetics, let's say the grotesque or any other aesthetic, serving a purpose
Yes.
rather than being just a power creep for the sake of doing more than what the previous guy did.
Yeah, let's go crazier than the previous guy.
Yeah, because how can I be innovative in a world that nothing is new? Okay, I'll get what this guy did and do that plus.
To bring the gimmick factor.
Yeah, and that's the kind of escalation that we see happening, which is a big part of the problem, really.
Yeah, and I think it has pointed to do with the lack of knowledge, not of information, because in this day and age we got this piece of shit. Yeah, we're far in. We're quite far in, so we can actually swear now. YouTube, not Rumble. We are drowning in information, but knowledge is very sparse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm mentioning this because I just realized that I had this book here.
Mm-hmm.
This is a book. You'll see how thick this is.
Mm-hmm.
This is called Bell Crush Stomp Box Effects for Creative Music Making.
Mm-hmm.
Forward by Steve Vai. I only bought it because it says Steve Vai. No, look, this is actually. I've been working quite a lot with my pedal board for the last few weeks now.
Mm.
And since I have never been I have always been a singer rather than a guitar player in the live shows. So the whole thing of using effects and pedals as part of my guitar use on the stage changed dramatically. Before, my role was just to play rhythm and nothing more. But now that I'm playing lead and stuff, I need to learn how to make it sound better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being the studio rat that I am, I apply most of my knowledge. Well, most of my knowledge regarding the use of effects is done or understood from the perspective of mixing music and creating music, but never on my guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, for as long as it sounds the way it should,
Mm-hmm.
we're already there, and I add the effects based on the sound of the music rather than the sound of the stage.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if that makes sense. If you watch and have ever seen Hermetics, stop. How are you going?
Yeah, my.
How are you doing? Sorry for taking this long because I was focused on this conversation. What I was saying is that I never thought of using effects in the way that I'm doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Since the band used to be 3 guitar players for it to make sense on the stage, now it's only me. I need to find ways to make the sound of the band feel robust.
Mm-hmm.
So I developed a ridiculously complex guitar pedal board. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Those of you watching, I haven't been able to showcase it at its fullest. I will later on. There is still more stuff yet to come. But I managed to create a sound that is basically the same as I get on studio live, stereo, but with the leads properly centered.
Mm-hmm.
All at the same time. It's a very complex book. But the point is this. I bought this book because it's filled to the rim with interviews with different musicians and how they use pedals. It's more about, for example, this is actually a synthesizer player, and he's explaining how he uses his pedal board to create and develop sounds. It's something that I find to be quite informative, because when you are a guitar player, or when you're a musician, one of the best things to do is to have conversations with different musicians and talk about gear, talk about the use of such gear, and even how they approach to music theory, because you will learn a lot from these guys, or you will come up with new ideas thanks to those conversations. Yeah, it's a very good book, Jeremiah. I totally recommend it. It's filtering with not only interviews, it's also has plenty of explains many things about guitar pedals, how they interact, even the physics of it. I've been learning quite a lot, and also has plenty of creative suggestions on how to use your pedals in tandem with other pedals and stuff. It's very, very cool. I recommend it a lot. And as you can see, little to no images. It's mostly words. So if you're Steven Seagal, you're gonna have a hard time. But very much recommended. And I have other books from this series. Some of them are on synthesizers. Some are on. Well, I got one that is all about designing interfaces for musicians. Why? You're like, are you designing shit? No. Allegedly. It's because through the use of an interface, you inspire people. And if you lay down, or if your layout for the equipment makes sense for the one who is going to be using it, you are opening up the creativity of that individual by removing the learning factor from the equation. So creativity is something that has to be part of every single one of us, regardless of you being a musician or not, in my opinion, because we exercise the creativity every single day of our lives. Because you put it at the beginning of this conversation, it's kind of like a problem-solving mechanism, right? It is indeed. But how much of those problems do we face daily? Untold amounts.
Yeah.
It's basically every single second of our life we have to solve a problem of different magnitudes, of course.
Yeah.
And here Hermione is saying, yeah, possibilities are limitless, 100%, are infinite. Yes, and those possibilities, some of them are fantastic. Some of them will change your life, and some of them will take you to hell. But it's up to you to make the most out of them and learning how to capitalize those possibilities. Because I don't think that, even though I trashed quite a lot the idea of being different and unique just for sake of being different, I think it's something that every single one of us have to do. But we have to learn how much and when to stop, and when we're doing it just for sake of it rather than in a meaningful fashion.
Which I think is the core of the issue, because look, by its very definition, we are all different from one another, for the good and for the bad. But we are. There's no two people alike. Which means that whatever two different people are expressing will be different by its very nature. So you don't necessarily need to pursue difference as a goal, because it's actually a given already.
Just by the fact that let's say that you're playing guitar. You play guitar, I play guitar. We're playing the same notes. Just by the fact that our fingers are completely different,
or sound different,
it's gonna sound completely different. And even though we might be playing the same notes, it's not only the shape of our fingers, it's the shape of our hearts. No, it's also how hard we hit the string. And that already, it's inbound with the emotion that you're projecting through the note. So even though you might be playing, we both could be butchering a Sweet Child of Mine, one is gonna be superior to the other. Why? At least it's the least terrible. Why? It's the closest to the intended emotion, right? It's the least offensive. So regardless of what you do, you're already doing it in a way that is unique to you. That's why it's kind of a fallacy, right? To pursue uniqueness just for the sake of it, because just by the fact that you're doing it, it's already unique to you, man.
Which once again is not a qualitative.
No, it's far from it, because both of this, in this example, both of them sucked. We're just trying to see which one is the least offensive. Which one is the one that makes Baby Jesus cry the least.
And also on that note, because one of the core aspects of music.
And sorry, here am I saying it's like how much is too much. Yeah, man. Because it's a matter of measurement. There is a point on which you know that I dropped the ball. This is way too much. But also, if you play too safe, it sounds boring. So it's like a balancing act. coming back to what I said a few minutes ago, regardless how plenty of those guitar players that I was working with at that point, all of them, well, most of them were trying to do the unique thing, playing weird stuff. I felt, now that I think about it, it was a little bit of an skill issue. No, it was some form of insecurity issue. Because I'm not good enough, my ideas are not good enough, so the solution is bringing something outlandish, and I'm gonna use that. I don't like it is because you don't get it. It's different. You don't get it. It sucks, man. You're also something, sorry.
No, but on this note, and even I think evidence of this is that you can tell quality, let's say, of a musician or a drummer. Let's put a drummer as an example. You can tell if a drummer is great when he's playing the simplest beat possible.
Yeah, like this.
Yeah, so it's not about doing something outlandish or doing something that's gonna be innovative. Yeah. It's doing what works. Well done.
Well done. Yeah, it's objectivity once again.
Yeah.
And the drummers are usually, it's a good example, man, because think of your Chad Smith, right? The Red Hot Chili Peppers. Is he known for being flashy? No, but he's highly respected among musicians.
Yeah, he deserves it.
Obviously, man, that guy is awesome. Because every single thing he does, dude, it works. It's groovy, it's punchy, it's exciting, and it doesn't get in the way of the music he's playing to.
Yeah.
And when he has to shine, he does.
Yeah.
And beautifully. I recommend for those of you who like Red Hot Chili Peppers. Well, this is far from Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's closer to Van Hagar. Chicken Foot. It's him, Sammy Hagar, Michelangelo, the bass player. It's basically 1/3 Red Hot Chili Peppers and Joe Satriani. The other 2/3 is Van Halen. So yeah,
couldn't go wrong.
No, man.
But it's more outlandish.
It's more outlandish.
Yeah.
But it's not as crazy or as acrobatic as you might expect. Super, how can I put it? Relaxed. Like, let's have fun.
It's enjoyable music.
Yes, it's music. It's music you play with your pals.
Yeah.
That makes sense, right? It's that kind of stuff that. But when they have to shine, dude, you got some of the best in the business. So they knock the ball over the park every single day.
But look, I want to bring to the conversation because you mentioned the whole thing about it happens a lot with drummers. The whole thing about trying to be way too innovative. But guitar players. No. Give me a second.
Go.
The whole thing with the current trend of all of your polyphony-inspired guitar players on Instagram and YouTube, all trying to be very innovative.
They suck.
And when one of the most respected guitar players in the world is B.B. King.
Yes.
Which is on the complete other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But why?
One finger.
But every note means something.
Yes, because he had something to say.
Yeah, but he wasn't trying to be cute.
No.
He wasn't trying to be innovative.
This is as far as I can go, so I'm gonna do it right.
Yeah.
And look, you misunderstood me. I think guitar players are the worst offenders when it comes to this, because either they go nuts with the music theory, or they go full on this and know this. So boring. Drummers usually are the ones who play the safest. Usually, because if they go cute, this is way too cute, man. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Guitar players, if they have a solid foundation, if they got a good drummer and a good bass player, those are the ones that go nuts, man.
Yeah.
And usually singers, I'm very busy drinking. So, yeah, man.
Doing this.
Those are the good ones, man. Usually they will be drinking. So, so it's kind of a mixed bag, right? Because in one hand, creativity is something you need to have as a musician and as an artist.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you overdo it or you overuse it, it's gonna become something ridiculous, or it will be meaningless. Because there are countless examples of people trying to. I'm trying to avoid naming names, but don't do it. What I'm about to suggest, for sake of making fun of people, okay? But explore Instagram, explore YouTube. Look for people playing covers or playing music. And you're gonna find plenty of people mimicking, because that's the expected thing.
Yeah.
But you're gonna see the people going cute or doing the cute thing. That some of them are very. I don't know what word to use. because I don't want to be mean, but it's kind of like, dude, you should. Are you actually able to hear what you're doing?
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of a little bit of the delusional perception of themselves. It's like it's kind of concerning. Get me?
Yeah.
It's like there's something wrong with you, man. There is something very wrong. And yeah, I don't hope to finish this because I don't want to. You know what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah,
I hope because there are people who does it in an overly indulgent way, just to boost their ego. Look how creative I am. Because how many people, when you were developing your skills as a drummer, you met when the mini gigs you used to play when you were just a little boy.
Yeah.
And you meet the next band or the bands that you're gonna play with.
Yeah.
What kind of music do you play? Oh man, we're creating a new style. It's like
Yeah.
every single musician in between 15 to 24, or at this stage probably 38, is reinventing music as we know it.
It's revolutionizing the whole
Yes,
thing.
he's creating a totally new genre.
Yeah.
It's electro mix, dance, DJ, electro tour, whatever. Something stupid that makes no sense. And then you listen to them because some of them are very good salesmen, but they are good selling snake oil. So then they play like, this is just another copycat of Foo Fighters, man. But
Well, there's an entire genre, the alternative rock.
yeah, that it's no longer alternative because
Yeah.
you just said it right. Alternative to what, man?
Look, I think Jeremiah said something else.
I'm a drummer, Harry Mason, and I totally agree with you. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, but
No, but
we gotta concede that.
no.
What can we say?
No. It's a fact, man. It's a fact. Drummers tends to be the least crazy in that regard, man. Because for whatever reason, the psyche again, working in music production, you start to see patterns, man. But when a crowd sees patterns, it's cute. But when I do it, it's insane. But you start to see patterns, man, and you see that certain instruments tend to draw or tend to bring people with a particular set of personality traits. Drummers tends to be the ones that are the least, interestingly enough, are the ones that are hoping to attract the least attention towards them, even though they're playing the loudest freaking instrument.
Yeah.
Guitar players on the other hand, man, it's just like, or can you still see it? Because I'm shining in front of you. Are you blind?
But look, I do think that there's a musical reason for it. And it might become one of those who came first, the chicken or the egg. If it's people get attracted to it because of it, or they become like that because they play the instrument, regardless.
Yes.
When it comes to drummers being a little bit more, the way that you're exposed, I think it comes to the fact that since basically what we do is perform to the rhythmical foundation of the music, which is a very it's the bedrock of the music, is the structural portion of the music. We can't by our own nature go outlandish. We shouldn't, because it wouldn't have the structure. If the structure being provided, let's say from the drummer and bass player, you mentioned yourself that the singer or the guitar player can kind of go nuts and the thing doesn't fall apart. So it might be the case that people with that particular tendency are gonna be attracted to drums.
I get you.
Or they might develop that because of the attachment to the instrument. But it's interesting.
Yeah, it's something that I cannot put my finger on. I hear Jeremiah saying that you don't need to turn Billie Jean into a Dream Theater level drum pattern. 100%.
You shouldn't. It will kill the track.
You're gonna destroy the whole vibe, and the beat itself is gonna be no longer there. Because you're no longer playing Billie Jean. You're playing whatever you're doing. And that's a good example of how creativity can go awry.
But I wouldn't call that creativity, because once again...
that's been cute, man.
Because even the definition we already established of creativity, solving the problem using the tools that you have, you're not solving the problem, you're creating a new one.
You're creating a new problem that nobody asked for.
Yeah. So now, even kind of leaning into something quasi-final statements, I feel that because talking about this issue with too much, too many. Also, there's the other side of the aisle where people think that maybe too much complexity, too much technique, too much theory doesn't play to your advantage. That's actually too much.
You're talking about punk.
I'm talking about... Well, maybe.
It was a half-ass joke.
The thing is, context matters. Once again, since creativity is the use of the tools that you have at your disposal to solve a problem, the harder, the more complex, the deeper the context is, the more it's gonna require of you.
Yeah.
So let's say Dream Theater,
Yes.
the example that Jeremiah gave us. Why does Dream Theater music require that level of complexity, that level of instrumentalism, that level of proficiency? Because the scope of the music at an emotional level, at a concept
It's
level,
already
is that
accomplished.
deep,
Yep.
is that complex.
Yes.
The music needs to reflect that.
Yep.
If you get that level of complexity and you throw it to Michael Jackson, for instance, it fails.
Yep.
It sucks because you're not solving the problem. You're creating a new one.
Yeah.
And complexity is not akin to quality.
Yeah,
because
that-
Michael Jackson is not necessarily lesser than Dream
No,
Theater.
it's actually incredibly well crafted.
Because they are both great because they accomplish what they set out to accomplish.
Yes, because they are honest to God.
Yes.
Yeah, and actually this could be, because I was thinking of follow-ups to this conversation, because we can go one about being cute. What I mean, look,
Yeah.
cute is kind of an inside joke. Let me explain.
Yeah.
The thing is that in here in the studio, whenever somebody sends stuff to be worked on, like mixed, I have this term that, oh look, they're trying to be cute, and when I say that is that they're trying to impress me.
Yeah.
Not that I'm God made flesh or anything. It's simply allegedly. I'm just trying to play down. No, no, it's because sometimes they send stuff that it's just getting in my way. It's stopping me from doing my job correctly, because they try to be, look, I'm not that stupid. You're just being cute, man. That's what going cute, and that applies also to music, to music performing music, because let's say a drum pattern, right? And then you try to do something, man, but do it simply. It works, right? Yeah. So why they work? Because you're trying to be cute.
Yeah.
You're trying to impress the no chick
Yeah.
that is not gonna be there looking at you while you're playing that thing.
Yeah.
And it never lands, not because you fail. You fail because it doesn't make sense in music.
Yeah.
In the music you're playing.
Yeah.
So that's what being cute stands for. But also I was thinking, how much is too much and how little is too little. That's another good point for our conversation that we had.
Yeah.
Now let's take this to the final portion. In my opinion, the whole concept of innovation has been grossly misunderstood. Has been what it used to be expected and a given, and something that people could see as part of any craft, was turned into a qualitative feature. Very problematic, because you can be new, you can come up with something new that sucks or is simply terrible. But just because it's new, you cannot look at it from an objective perspective and call it for what it is. It simply sucks. No, it's new. You don't get it. Examples: modern art. Just look at the paintings, just the things that passes as paintings, or as sculpture, or people just sticking a goddamn banana to the wall with a gaff tape and selling it for millions of dollars as. And convincing the world that is actually artistic in nature.
The thing is that it is. It's just that
It's the shock value.
You can understand it because you don't have the appreciation, but it's something
I-
that you
I-
might be
yeah.
able to develop.
My
over time.
pedestrian mindset, my underdeveloped brain is unable to understand such a piece of high art.
It's ahead of its time.
It's ahead of its time, of course. Yeah, because I stop when it comes to art appreciation. And Michael, all of the Ninja Turtles.
Oh, you still like Da Vinci?
Yeah, you're still talking about Donatello? Yeah. So, I think the whole concept, by definition, or its definition, has been misunderstood. Probably totally not a tinfoil hat moment on. Social engineered into becoming what it is understood today. Because innovation, being new, being different, is not a qualitative feature. It's just a feature. Because every morning, as I said before, every time you go to the bathroom, you are extremely creative. Every morning you drop a new piece, and it's still shit. So no, it can be new, it can be fresh, it can be the latest of the latest.
Yeah.
But it's still shit, man. So objectivity should be king. If this is new, yeah, but it's new. Does it sucks? It does. So it's just new shit. Is this sucky? No. Is it new? Yes, Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
It's new shit. It's new stuff.
It's new stuff.
You get me?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that will be my final comment.
Yeah, no, but I think just as an addendum to your final comment, innovation or even creativity shouldn't be the end game.
No.
You don't do things to be creative. You use creativity to achieve
To do great things.
to do great things. The objective is to do great music.
Yes. Regardless of how you do it.
Innovation, creativity, they might play a part, they might not.
Yeah.
For as long as the music is great, who cares?
And look again, bringing not the book, but the concept of pedals. Pedals are meant to be used and abused because you will find plenty of stinker moments. But there is that particular position of the knobs that, man, it creates a new song. Period.
Yeah.
And we'll.
I was about you, but you didn't stop talking.
Sorry, but you get me. Is that a watershed moment? That wall shattering? Whatever.
Regardless. So, girls and boys.
Oh, that sucks. Sorry, I apologize for that. I simply, I'm not at my finest today when it comes to the usage of language.
Yeah, words are hard.
Words is hard.
But look, you mentioned the whole thing about the potential next podcast.
Yes.
And the thing about too much, too little. I think it's a good discussion to have. And if you want to be a part of that discussion, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, because you can be notified for whenever we do these live streams. We do it on a weekly basis, and you can be a part of the conversation. We actually invite you to be.
And also join our Discord,
Yes.
because I'm going to take this conversation there. We're going to continue talking about this particular topic over there. So please make sure to subscribe. The Discord is in the link. The link to the Discord is in the description down below, in both Rumble and YouTube. So, with that being said, thanks for watching, thanks for joining.
Yep.
The best way to support this channel is by listening to our music on Apple Music or Spotify. Extremely old-fashioned. I'm not gonna. Now we're breaking your my ass. We're doing just what sounds not bad. Okay. I wouldn't say that it's good because that decision is to you to be made.
Yeah.
So, but I can assure it doesn't suck at least.
It
And
falls into the category of music doesn't suck.
Of course, it does indeed.
Which is a conversation that we have on Thursday. If you want to join us on that, it'll be fun.
That's also fun. Now, and you can also join us on Instagram and X, where you can be part of our rants over there. Where I'm trying to be more active on X because I've been passively just following the discourse, learning my way around. I've been like a sneaky, shady Raven Guard like individual, learning my ways around it. So I think I kind of understood a little bit the flow of conversation. So I'm gonna begin.
Sure, time to deep strike.
Yes, deep strike battling, man, with every single one of my mofos. So yeah, you do the cheese with the big chungus behind the. No.
Yeah,
That's the Warhammer jokes, but whatever. Yeah. So with that being said, thanks for joining, thanks for watching, and as every single time we meet you, we remind you that you should never let anybody tell you what to dream about, and remember to join Discord, and that we will see you when we see you.